Jerusalem, a name, a city, and a feeling which for the past thousands of years has meant so much and played such an important role to the lives of many different people. I'm Deborah Palmer, and today we're privileged to be talking to Mayor Teddy Kolleck, who for the past 16 years has added yet another chapter to this beautiful and colorful city.
Sim Shalom.
There's something that attracts people to the city. They say they're not content till they come to Jerusalem, till they spend time in Jerusalem. I've talked to so many people who sing that song, Jerusalem is Mine. Everyone feels a special attachment.
That makes me very happy.
What is it? I mean, I don't know if you'll be able to pinpoint it, but what is it that lures all the
well,
people
it's
here?
A combination of 3,000 years of history, of many probably childhood memories when people heard Bible stories and legends about Jerusalem, and maybe from their grandparents and from their parents, down to the fact that today it is a very beautiful city and becoming more beautiful every day, and that in the midst of a great deal of turmoil, there is comparative quiet and reasonable relations between different people. Although there are always small elements on all sides, both certainly on the Arab side, sometimes on the Christian, very often on the Jewish, who are out to get all their aspirations fulfilled, which partly are in clash with other aspirations, and then you have to try to steer in between these things.
You know, I understand what you're saying, because for me, this is my first visit here, and spending time here, I felt the same things. Why is it that people refer to it as Jerusalem's Shel Zahav, the city of gold?
Well, if you are here, particularly in the early morning when the sun rises, and in the evenings, before the sun sets, there's a particular light around Jerusalem. It is all built of stone. It is a yellow sandstone, the Jerusalem stone, and it glows in the light like gold.
Also, what is Jerusalem? There's thousands of years of history here. What has Jerusalem meant and done for the state of Israel?
Well, it is the center of everything. See, for thousands of years, even when Jerusalem was not in the hands of Jews, it was our capital. People prayed for it. It was the essence of everything. It is the essence of Zionism. Zion is Jerusalem. It's one of the many names in the Bible for Jerusalem. So here it is. It's the spiritual center, long before it ever became, again, the political center. And this is it. We could have waited and prayed for Jerusalem for another period in history, but now it has become again the capital of Israel, of a Jewish state, and I think it is better taken care of than it was taken care of by Romans, by Turks, by the British, by the Arabs, many of whom neglected Jerusalem badly at various periods. And now we are trying to live up to the demands of Jerusalem also in the physical, external way.
Hey, wasn't it you who said you want to make it sure everything is built in stone?
No, that was introduced by the British in the early 20s, and we turned it into a law that is now being fully obeyed. There were short periods of lapses of this rule, but now it's fully obeyed, and it gives the city a feeling of unity, which is very important.
As I've been going around to the different museums, the Israel Museum, I see sculpture all over the city. Why is it so important to bring all these cultural and artistic aspects to this city, besides its natural beauty?
Well, you could in fact be quite satisfied with the holy sites. The Western Wall, which was called the Wailing Wall for many centuries, the Temple Mount, which is our Temple Mount, but on which there are now, since about 1,200 years, these mosques standing, which are the holy place, the third holiest place in Islam, and it's one of the great problems of the city that on one hand you have the Temple Mount as the center of Jewish prayers, at the other hand it is a Muslim holy place, and the Church of the Sepulchre and many other Christian holy sites. We could be quite satisfied with this, but we think the rest of the city has to live up to this, and therefore we try to make it as beautiful and as attractive for everybody that we can. People don't spend all their time praying at their holy sites. They live in the city, they move around in the city, and we are trying to create in the city an atmosphere worthy of these great shrines.
You get a lot of feedback from people who live here saying, Mayor Kolleck, we like what you're doing here, from both Arabs and Jews, and they put give their input.
Some, but many of them are worried about that sometimes maybe the water supply is not working in their particular district, or garbage collection hasn't worked for a day or two in their district. So what we hear in the city are more the mundane things. The taxes are too high, or I don't know what else, and not necessarily all these things that make you enthusiastic.
As we look behind us, we see the old city right next to the new, and I see no better way to start. How do you blend the mosaic of people here? How do you blend the peace process and make it all work? You have Jews, Muslims, and Christians, and many other groups.
Well, we haven't planned this. It's just what we found, and we are trying to make it work. It has very little to do with the general peace process. It has only something to do with very different people who have different ideas and different political aspirations to live together in one city with comparatively reasonable conditions, without too much grating, without too much discussion and debate about distant future, and dealing with the everyday problems of living together as they come up.
It's beautiful. It seems to work for you, but it seems to be so much harder for many different people, you know, trying to make a peace process work. Do you have a
Please leave me alone with the peace process. If you want to talk about this, talk to the foreign minister, talk to the prime minister. If you're talking about Jerusalem.
But Mayor Teddy Kolleck has brought peace to this colorful mosaic and continues to encourage harmonious relations between the Jews, Christians, and Muslims of Jerusalem. These people have come together from diverse lands and histories, people whose identity and traditions remain intact rather than assimilated into a melting pot. People who live and work together in a rare coexistence that may serve as a model for many other mixed cities in all parts of the globe. Mayor Kolleck has made it work. Under his leadership, the walls and barbed wire that once divided the city since 1948 came down in 1967 after the Six-Day War. For the first time in 2 decades, the gates of the old city were open to traffic. Once again, Jews and Arabs mixed freely. As a result of Kolleck's drive and determination to create a livable, functional, and humane environment, 5,000 homes since 1967 have been connected to the municipal water system in the eastern sector of the city, and 270 new classrooms have been added. There have been 6 new housing projects for Arab Jerusalemites and over 5,000 mortgages granted for housing improvements. Because the aesthetic surroundings are equally important to him, Kolleck has established the Jerusalem Committee, which serves as an advisory council over the beautification and restoration of the city. His relentless devotion to Jerusalem was eventually printed in his autobiography, For Jerusalem. In it he writes, "Jerusalem is of great concern and absorbing interest all over the world. I've experienced it every day for the last decade, and more. Jerusalem is in the center of great political conflicts. Its story needs to be told. And he does tell it, for no one knows Jerusalem better than Mayor Teddy Kolleck. Since you've been mayor, you have satisfied many needs in this city. What do you see as the greatest needs right now in Jerusalem?
The greatest need is always not the material one, but trying to convince people that one has to live together. It isn't easy. You have a situation today where, on the one hand, some Jews at least believe that you can solve things only by using strength, and the situation in Lebanon is strengthening this feeling amongst these groups, which I hope are small. And you have Arabs who, because of what is happening as well in the Lebanon, although they may not support the PLO, suddenly feel that something terrible is happening to their Palestinian relatives there, and therefore also believe that maybe demonstrations should take place, partly out of a feeling of frustration. So there is, at the moment, the most important thing is to explain to people that this is not the way, that after all, we have to live together. This is, how do you say in Chicago, beshert? Yeah? Yeah. There are Jews and Arabs and Christians here. This is the historic fact, which we can't change. And while we are the majority and will remain the majority, and this will remain the capital of Israel, we have to behave towards the Arabs and the Christians as we would like, let's say, the Russians to behave towards the Jews in Russia. And we have no claim to ask others to deal with Jews decently, whether it's in some Latin American countries or in Russia or in Syria, if we don't prove that we are doing the same towards Arabs and Christians, whatever our feelings may be.
We were in the old city the other day, and we're walking through, and some people had a hard time deciding whether to buy from the Arabs in the old city. And our guide said, Teddy Kolleck encourages Jews to buy from Arabs and Arabs to buy from Jews. This is very important.
Imagine what would happen if, as a result of Rabbi Kahana's slogan, "Don't buy from Arabs," people would start saying the same about Jews in Chicago. You would be in a mess. Now, we have in this building Arab officials whose family lives in the same building in the old city overlooking the Temple Mount for the last 800 years. Nobody in the United States can say this. Very few people in Europe can say this. In Jerusalem, we know of Jews here permanently always, but the oldest family here is about 400 years here. So it's a difficult situation, and you cannot find easy formula for it.
For the past 16 years, you've been dealing with this need, the gelling together of communities, the different groups. What kind of changes have you seen? Has it been a gradual shift?
On the whole, I've seen a shift towards the good over the years, but I'm afraid that the present situation makes for tensions that I hope will pass quickly.
You had just mentioned that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. You believe that? And a lot of people don't recognize that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel.
The world doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you cope with that? And are you encouraging people on a PR mission to...
It is not a matter that can be done through PR missions. We are, of course, every day trying to show to visitors, to opinion makers like journalists and teachers and parliamentarians from various countries and government members of various governments what we have been doing. and convince them through this. At this moment, you have a number of parliamentarians from your country, congressmen and senators here, and we are trying it every day. But this is a matter that will take maybe 2 generations and maybe 10. As long as we stick to our aims, making Jerusalem a beautiful city, a city which is full of content, religious content and cultural content, educational content, and we deal with all the problems that we have as every city has it. Very poor, some poor who are impatient with their condition and therefore demonstrate for better conditions, deal with problems of education and building schools and other things for everybody. We are convinced that eventually, after maybe a long time, this will be recognized by the entire world. Meanwhile, this lack of recognition is deplorable, but it doesn't change anything in the everyday run of the city.
You were just talking about how important it is to bring culture into the city, and within the same sentence you talked about the needs for the poor. Now you have brought a lot of culture into the city, but at the same time I've heard people say, oh, that money should be put into the schools and for the needs for the poor. How do you balance the priorities?
Well, most of the money that we spend on cultural activities comes from earmarked donations from people outside the city administration, Israelis and people abroad, through an organization which we have set up, the Jerusalem Foundation, and people give money for such projects. Your legislation in the United States is preventing them from giving money to schools, for instance, because schools are not tax exempt under your IRS regulations. Schools we have to build from our own funds. They are legally required, and what a city or a country has legally to give cannot be donated through tax exempt funds. So we have limitations. And if people, for instance, in Chicago or in other places, in England, in Germany, in other cities of the United States, in Switzerland, in Brazil, contribute towards the Israel Museum, a great painting, a new wing. This doesn't stand in competition to what we have to do for social welfare, and we have to do a lot, old age homes, day crashes for young children, particularly, or working mothers, to enable them to go out to work, well baby clinics, mother and child centers, where pregnant women are being taken care of. All this comes out of our own budget.
And the other is fundraising.
And has nothing to do with the funds that we raise.
Why was it imperative for you to reestablish Christian rights, Christian schools here in Jerusalem?
The Christians have rights here since many generations. In fact, their rights were codified about 130 years ago by all the world powers of the time, which were Russia, the Emperor of Austria, the Queen of England, the Emperor of France, the King of Savoy, because Italy didn't yet exist, the King of Prussia, because the United Germany didn't yet exist. They were to some extent disregarded by the Jordanians. And for the reasons that I told you before, that I think Israel is demanding, and sometimes with success, rights for Jews everywhere, together with a wider Jewish community. We have to show an example that we preserve rights of others that exist here.
And on the other extreme, the Orthodox Jews, the same holds for them too. because they have their beliefs. Okay, you
There
have...
is no, this goes without saying. Nobody expects different. About the Christians, people may have thought, well, what will happen to them? This is a Jewish city and the Jewish capital, and the first stresses of satisfying needs of Jews, Orthodox and others.
People have gotten used to you here in Jerusalem. A lot of people say Teddy Kolleck means Jerusalem. Is there ever a chance of you entering the Knesset?
No, I have no interest. I don't regard myself neither as a person who codifies laws or constitutions, and not as a politician. I regard myself as an administrator. The main thing in the city, in every city, I think, is administration and not politics. Politics comes in, of course, but the first thing is fairly good administration.
In For Jerusalem, your autobiography, I read that when you were one of the first people to establish Ein Gev, the kibbutz, you had no thoughts of ever entering public office. What changed your mind?
Well, I got into, during the World War, I got into all kinds of public affairs and into government service afterwards as an appointed official, and that gradually changed my views and my attitude towards service of the community.
Jerusalem's thankful for that. I have one last question. I know you have many meetings today. What do you see as the future of Jerusalem? What plans for the future of
Well,
Jerusalem?
we have to keep it as is and embellish it more and more and trying to make people more and more tolerant. You don't have to find new recipes. Every day there are new challenges and you have to meet them.
Mayor Teddy Kolleck, it's been a privilege for me to talk to you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and come back often.
I will. Thank you.
Israel.